In the bag, y'all.
What up, y'all? I have my first tournament this upcoming Saturday, and I figured that now would be as good a time as any to do an in the bag video. So this is everything I'm going to be throwing for this season. Not a lot has changed since last season. I really hope that this audio isn't awful. I picked the windiest day and a spot next to one of the busiest roads in town, and so I apologize if it sucks. I'll do my best in the editing process to make it watchable. But like I was saying, a lot hasn't changed since last season. A few new additions to the bag just with my new sponsorship with Discmania. But we're just gonna hop right in. Obviously, an in the bag is not complete without a bag. So huge shout out to Discology Disc Golf Bags. This is their icon bag, and it's hands down one of the best disc golf bags on the market. Retails for 140 bucks, and it's made out of super high quality material. Plenty of storage. I carry 23 discs in total, and that's not even maxed out. I still have a lot of wiggle room in here, and then I carry 2 putters over in the side pouch. This wind is unreal, but there's more room in this side pouch here, and then you can even turn the other side into like a putter pouch or whatever, but there's a little divider that it comes in the middle, and you can put 2 different water bottles in here. I carry my rangefinder and a well sack in here in one side and the water bottle in the other. Huge side pockets with inner lining that you can fit stuff into, and then the pockets on the front. I personally use my phone, or I put my phone in this front pocket, and then a couple minis in the very front, in the very front pocket. If you care to know more and want one for yourself, I'll link it down in the description. Use my code CC10. It supports me and my season this year, and you also get a really dope bag. I'm also gonna link every single one of them down in the, my gosh, my brain talks faster than my mouth. I'll also be linking every single individual disc down in the description so that you can go and buy it for yourself if you like what you see. So diving right in, starting off with the putting putters, I'm putting with Flex 3 Glow D-Line P1s this year. I used to putt with Rainmakers, but I only liked the first run of them because they felt a little bit shallower. I liked the plastic feel. And then the second and third, or however many runs they did after that, were a little bit too deep for me and felt more P2-ish. And a shallower putter feels a lot better in my hands, and so the P1s are what I'm going with. Also forgot to mention, I love these P1s mainly just because I'm more of a point and shoot type putter, even within C2. And so I love a putter that I can hit really hard and flat and just trust it's gonna go dead straight right in the basket. Shout out to Niklas Antila, good run of putters. Throwing putters, I bag 2 Tactics. I'd bag a soft Exo Tactic and then a Razor Claw 3. Also shout out to Lore Dies. Link will be down in the description. Go and get you a custom dye job done by Mike and Dusty. Soft Tactic because they start out a little bit more overstable, honestly, than the hard Exo Tactics. And then also just the soft plastic is perfect for upshots and stuff like that. And then Razor Claw 3 for the overstability, and then also a little bit more ground play on faster greens and things like that if I want to skip. Couple more throwing putters. I have an old beat up soft Logic that I'm throwing that's like my perfect little flip up shot shaper through the woods and things like that. And I'm messing around with the Spore, aka the Cloudstone. Not too sure how long this is gonna stay in the bag. It's a really deep profile, and those don't always feel the best in my hand, but the flight of this thing is so sick. It's honestly a lot more torque resistant than I thought it was going to be. I don't know if it's just because it's Mania Night, so if it is, sorry, because you're probably not going to get your hands on it. But these are a lot more useful than you would think if you're cool with a deeper profile. Mainly because they glide for days, like they go far. Then last throwing putter is I just started bagging a Cosmic Fury. I've quickly fallen in love with this disc because I love the Logic to begin with, but this is a more stable version. And so what I was throwing a link for, the Lux Vapor, I think is what it's called. The Lux Vapor link, what I was throwing that for, I'm throwing this for now for those stable, just like barely flip up and point and shoot laser shots. Shout out KK. I'm sorry, shout out Kyle Klein. Oh, also forgot to mention that this bag comes with a Rainfly, so that's cool. Y'all, I'm out here trying my hardest to try and get some B-roll for y'all to show y'all how these discs fly. But it's just too windy. So it might just not work out. Moving on to the mid-ranges. Gonna go from most overstable to most understable. I have a prototype MD5. This thing, it's beaten in, but that does not mean it's any less overstable. this run of MD5s is unlike anything I've ever thrown. To be completely honest, always overstable, perfect torque resistant, wind resistant disc, forehand and backhand, and it just looks pretty. I mean, who doesn't love a clear disc? Unless you're worried about not being able to find it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to beginners, but if you do have a problem with like chopping over on forehands, a good torque resistant disc, a very overstable disc, which this is that, it's very overstable, can correct that and help you to clean up your forehand release a little bit. It's stable, it's beef. And then I'll go over the MD4s. I have 3 MD4s in the bag. This is my most overstable one. My buddy James picked this up for me at Nashville Disc Golf Store. It's an old C-Line Metal Flake from 2019. Salute at the VA. Shout out to the veterans out there. But for my style of play and my stock shot being a flat release, I love the MD4, especially a newer stable one, because I can hit it flat, it's not gonna flip, and it's always gonna have a dependable fade after a pretty straight flight most of the way. Then I have a more beat up one that this one flies more like an MD3. This is an old Glow C-Line MD4 from one of the Crescent Falcon runs. I can't remember which run it's from. This is from the Bowling Green Open down in Kentucky. But this one will hold anhyzer and then pan very, very slowly. More of an MD3 flight, and I bag an MD3, but I have this one just because I like the Glow plastic. So, and then this one, I actually picked this up at 1010. Shout out 1010 Discs. Link will be down in the description. Use my code for a discount on everything you get on the website and in store. Shameless plug. I picked this up off the used rack for less than $5. The old P-Line MD4. Now this thing, I keep it in the bag because it's dope. It's sick. But this thing is almost so flippy, it's almost unusable. It's like borderline, like I cannot throw this in any type of wind, tailwind, headwind. I mean, maybe a tailwind, but like when I tell you I have to throw this thing at like 50% power to not get it to turn over, and I still have to throw it on a steep hyzer, this thing is that kind of disc. But that's the curse and the blessing in it, is that it's that flippy, so I can manipulate it if my angles are correct to do whatever I want it to. And then you can't be a Discmania player without having a MD3 in the bag, so I just have a stock, actually really bored flat C-Line MD3. This is perfect for little baby hyzer flips, and I mean, it's kind of like the Logic, just a little bit faster, in the fact that it's literally just a dead straight mid-range. Everybody needs a dead straight mid-range in the bag. I highly recommend the MD3 to any beginner, any advanced disc golfer out there. Moving into the fairways, obviously I bag a C-Line FD. The S-Line FDs, I just realized that I left a disc out here yesterday. I really hope it's still over there. Wow. The one I left is an old D-Line FD that my buddy Thomas actually just gave to me last week. So I hope I can go and find that. But the C-Line FD is a very stable run of FDs, like pretty stable. And this one I've been bagging for almost a year maybe, and it's still as much overstable as it was when I first put it in the bag. The C-Line plastic that Discmania has started manufacturing holds its stability longer than any disc I've ever thrown in this type of plastic. So, but obviously everybody knows and loves the FD. It's basically the mid-range of fairway drivers, is the best way to describe it. It's a 7-speed mid-range. It goes dead straight. You put it on hyzer, it holds hyzer. You put it on anhyzer, it holds anhyzer. It's a perfect fairway. Vanguard, shout out to Kyle Klein again. This is a perfect, oh my God, I gotta stop saying perfect. I gotta expand my vocabulary. This is a money fairway, 9-speed slot for a more overstable slot. For higher arm speeds, it's going to push about 300 to 325, and then it's going to start fading on you. I've been saying that this kind of has an S-Line PD flight, just slower. But it's also like, I think it's a little more overstable than the flight numbers give it credit for. But then again, I'm not throwing at Kyle Klein arm speed, so who knows? And then I have 2 FD3s in the bag. I have an old Lizotte S-Line FD3, another one that my buddy Thomas gave to me. This is a pre-Doom Blurred. What is going on? This is a pre-Doombird FD3 S-Line, and it has beaten into a little hyzer flip type guy. Kind of flies like the Vanguard on the latter half of the flight, but has a little flip in the beginning of it. And this is also perfect for my arms, forehand arm speed. Guys, bear with me while I struggle through talking to y'all. Has every bit of the FD3 flight, beat in FD3 flight that we all know and love. And then I have one of the Discmania Open Glow FD3s from last year's run. And this is probably the most overstable FD3 I've thrown. I used to bag a Doombird 2, and at that point that was the most overstable run. But this one I think takes the cake on that. Like there's Splice, and then there's this FD3, and then there's like all your other FD3s. Like this one is freaking stout. And it's also board flat. So for all you flat disc lovers out there, I can't really forehand domey discs. It's just not comfortable in the hand. I don't get a super clean release with it. And so I like flatter ones, and these fit the mark. Newer release, I just put this in the bag. We're moving into the control driver slot now. It's the TD. This thing is probably going to be a workhorse for me this year. This thing is a hyzer flip beast. I'm talking the very first time I threw this disc. I threw it like on baby hyzer, maybe flat at about 70% power, and like it just was one of those shots that worked out well, and it had good nose angle, and it went 450 the very first time I threw it. So for a 10-speed disc, this is easy distance, and this is also a very user-friendly disc at any skill level. Beginner all the way up to professional. I will be anxious to see what this flies like in C-line plastic if Discmania does ever decide to produce that. But good little dome on it, good profile, plastic feels great, so I definitely recommend this if you haven't tried it out already. Everybody from what I've seen that's on the team has had nothing but good things to say about this disc, so, and I back that up, so go get a TD. Then obviously, if you're a lover of Discmania, you love the PDs. Wow. The first time I ever threw an S-Line PD in the new plastic, I found one in a creek, and it had no name and number on it, and tried to find an owner but couldn't, and so I ended up bagging it. It was an orange one. It wasn't this one though. And when I tell you it has stayed in my bag ever since I found it in that creek. In the S-Line plastic, if you've thrown the C-Line PDs, those things are no joke. I mean, they are so stable that it's almost like for my arm speed in the 10-speed slot, it was almost too stable. But the S-Line is absolutely money because it has a little bit of a straighter flight, but also has the stability that the PD has always had. I wouldn't say it's a super headwind fighter, but it has enough stability to where if you put it on a little bit of hyzer, it's gonna fight it. It has a PD profile, so it's gonna work. And then shout out to Jacob Bryan, the team manager over at 1010 Discs. He hooked me up with an old InnovaRun PD, and this one is absolutely stout. This one's right in between the S-Line, the new S-Line and the new C-Line PDs in stability, to where I can hit it flat. It's not gonna turn a lick, and then it's gonna dump hard. So appreciate it, Jacob. And then last slot in the bag is obviously the distance drivers. Starting out, I love the DD1. I throw this primarily on forehands. Mainly because, like I talked about in my last video, 11 speeds feel perfect in my forehand grip, whereas 12 speeds are a little bit too wide. And then also because of the flight characteristics on this disc, it's a little bit straighter, and so I love it for my arm speed. But it also works for backhand really well too. It's a good little hyzer flip and push dead straight with dependable fade. I'll most of the time reach for this disc if I'm needing to push, 400 feet plus, but I still want a little bit of control. And a little bit more accuracy. Whereas 12 speeds, I tend to, anytime, I guess just mentally and subconsciously, when I grab a 12 speed, I think just yeet it. This one, I guess, holds me back a little bit more and forces me to be a little bit more accurate. I'm bagging 2 DD3s right now. Shout out to my buddy Braden, who gave me this when I got signed with Discmania. This is an old Ghost Stamp InnovaRun DD3, and it's a little bit on the flippier side. So it's my bomber one. In no wind or tailwind or anything like that, this one will go really far for me, and it's really good for my forehand as well when I decide to throw 12 speed for my forehand, or if I just need a little bit extra distance on a forehand. And then I bag a C-Line DD3. These aren't like just massively These aren't just massively overstable. These are obviously C-Line overstable, but they still have a good bit of understability to them to where you can push them, max distance. And I don't know if you can really tell, but the profile on this one is absolutely money. Good amount of dome, and it's got that Yes, sir. And then last but not least, obviously, I'm bagging a Skystone. For anybody that's thrown these and was a lover of PD2s, you know that these emulate everything and more of the old PD2s, and they look absolutely sick. Good amount of dome on them to where they glide, but they're gonna have that PD2 dump that we all know and love. Thanks again for watching. If you liked anything that you saw, everything will be linked down in the description. Shout out to Discmania and shout out to Discology. Make sure to go check them out, and 1010 Discs and Lore Discs. Thank y'all for watching once again, and appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Bye.